Alright y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. So in today's video we're reacting to Operation Nimrod. And if you aren't familiar with Operation Nimrod, pretty much like I wasn't about 5 days ago until one of y'all recommended it. Basically it happened back in 1980 and there were some terrorists that took hostages in the Iranian embassy in London, and the SAS responded and pretty much ended up taking all the terrorists out. Well, all of them except one, I think. I think there was 6 total. But yeah, this video pretty much goes over the assault portion, not so much the days leading up to the actual SAS assault. But yeah, if you aren't familiar with it, definitely feel free to do some research on it. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure everyone has seen the footage at some point or another of the SAS actually responding and assaulting the embassy. But it's pretty interesting to actually look into it and see how everything went down, sort of detail by detail. And yeah, this video does a pretty good job of explaining everything. This is simple history, and they have a lot of cool stuff. They have a lot of cool animations and whatnot. So it's a good channel. So I think they'll do it justice. But again, if you guys haven't seen my merch, you feel free to check it out. I'll put a link down in the description. There's a lot of cool stuff to choose from, and it does support the channel, so I appreciate it. And yeah, if you're not subscribed, definitely feel free to hit that subscribe button. Totally free, and it definitely helps me out. But we'll get into the video. Should be a solid one. Anything with the SAS is going to be pretty cool.
Operation Nimrod, the Iranian Embassy Siege, 1980. Location: the Iranian Embassy, South Kensington, London. Day 6. British opinion was right on the spot. On May 5th, the 6th day of the siege, things suddenly got worse as Owen began to be more and more suspicious about noises that had come from the Ethiopian embassy and the bricks that had moved in the wall.
Yeah, again, so we did sort of miss the first 5 days. There's another video that explains all of that. But basically over the course of 5 days, the SAS have been training, and I think they built like a to-scale replica of the actual embassy. So they've been training constantly. And again, day 6, you can imagine they're kind of running out of options, and you don't really want to negotiate too much with people who are doing things like this. So day 6, everyone's getting kind of antsy. And then what they're saying with the bricks here, I'm not sure if they were either testing to see if they would notice certain things, or they were actually removing bricks from an adjacent building and actually trying to get a better sense of things. Hopefully it goes into a little more depth. I remember reading about that and hearing about that, but I forgot exactly what they're actually doing with the brick wall. But yeah, we'll keep this video going and see if it explains a little further.
Owen started to think that the police were preparing to attack them. His suspicions grew bigger as no Arab mediator appeared to begin negotiations. At 1300 hours, the BBC radio broadcast the news that there was still no agreement on which Arab ambassador would lead the negotiations, and Owen realized he was being bluffed. He picked up the phone and told police negotiator Vernon that they had 45 minutes to bring the ambassador, or a hostage would die. At 1345 hours, 3 shots were heard from inside the embassy. As Cobra was informed of the situation, they gave the order for the SAS teams to prepare the assault. At 1700 hours, the commander of the 22 SAS, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Rose, informed that 2 SAS teams were ready to assault the embassy. At 1820 hours, police attempted to make another contact with the terrorists through the imam from the local mosque. During the conversation, another 3 shots were heard, after which the front door was opened and a body was dumped onto the steps. It was the body of Abbas Lavasani, the chief press officer and a zealous supporter of the Islamic Revolution.
Yeah, so definitely if you're in a hostage situation and you're trying to leverage hostages, giving the police an ultimatum is probably not a good idea, especially when you have people like the SAS that can come in at any moment and, you know, kind of ruin your day. So wasn't too smart on their end, and killing a hostage definitely wasn't a smart move. So we'll see how this actually pans out for them.
Lavasani was killed at 1345, while the latest shots were only a bluff. Owen informed the police that the next hostage would die in 45 minutes. Lavasani's death meant the police's job had ended and that SAS would take over the operation. Afterwards, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher approved the assault, and Inspector Dello officially handed over control to Lieutenant Colonel Rose at 1907 hours. Planning the assault. The successful police negotiations that had lasted for 5 days had allowed the SAS teams to devise a detailed plan for assaulting the embassy. At the beginning, they used a scale model of the first and second floor made by police carpenters to plan the attack. Both planning and training were taken to a higher level once the pioneer company of the Irish Guards were engaged to build a life-size replica of all floors. This ensured...
This is where the SAS really got that distinct look, because they have these awesome MP5s, and they have the flashlights on top, which, I mean, it's very interesting. You wouldn't see a whole lot of people attaching a flashlight like that, but it looks so iconic with the hoods and the gas masks and the black attire. It's pretty solid. When you think about the SAS, especially from like Call of Duty 4 and whatnot, this is pretty much what you picture. It's probably not so much like that nowadays, but it definitely looks cool and it's definitely iconic. So when people think of the SAS, they usually think of how they look during this assault. But yeah, you can see they're putting in a lot of work to make sure that they do this as smoothly as possible. Because when you're talking about hostage situations, it can get very kinetic very quickly. A lot of things can change all of a sudden. So yeah, we'll see how their training actually paid off.
Sure, the assault was planned to every minute detail. It anticipated the simultaneous assault both by blue and red teams, a total of 32 men. Those in blue team were responsible for assaulting the basement, ground floor, and the first floor, whilst those in the red team took the top 3 floors. It was of greatest importance for all teams to attack the assigned floors exactly at the same time. They were to clear the floors in the shortest possible amount of time so that the terrorists would not have time to respond.
It's the way to do it.
The red team had the standard SAS weapons and equipment designed for the counter-terrorist operations. They were dressed in black assault suits, for which the SAS later became famous for. The upper body was protected with custom body armor with high-velocity plates. The head was covered by a gray flash hood, under which a standard Army S6 gas mask was worn. Each man had a radio with a headset and built-in microphone to maintain constant communication.
Good stuff.
In the assault on the Iranian embassy, the SAS soldiers were armed with Heckler & Koch MP5A3 submachine guns with a flashlight mounted on top, Browning 9mm high-powered pistols, and G60 stun grenades. MP5Ks and MP5SDs were also used, as there were not enough MP5A3s to equip all of the assaulters.
Hey, SD is nice.
Apart from submachine guns, Remington 870 pump-action shotguns and sledgehammers were carried to blow off the door hinges and locks. And frame charges were carried to breach the windows. Assault.
Here we go.
In 1923 hours, assault teams received the code word Hyde Park, which signaled the abseilers to hitch their ropes. It was followed by another code word, London Bridge, the signal to start the attack. The assault would begin with a diversionary explosion of the skylight, and the red and blue team attacks were intended to happen simultaneously. Team 1 of Red Team came through the blown-off skylights to clear the 3rd and 4th floors. They had the easiest task, as both floors were clear of terrorist presence.
So they say the easiest task, but again, anything could have gone completely wrong at any point. You know, if they have the hostages on one floor, all of a sudden they move them to a different floor, or they post a guard on a different floor, it can really ruin the assault, especially if it's not done simultaneously like they're actually planning on doing. But it is a very good idea to have the whole diversion, on the roof, blowing out the skylights, and then attacking from multiple levels. It really adds like a certain level of shock and chaos to the people who actually have the hostages. Or I guess the hostage takers. It really does add a level of chaos, and it would get them very confused and very scared if all of a sudden they have shots below them and above them and people coming in from the windows and whatnot. It's a very good plan, and again, it is the SAS, so they're going to cover their bases pretty well.
Team 2, also of the Red Team, abseiled from the roof down to the rear of the building to the 2nd floor. As they were coming down, the team leader got stuck on his harness. As the other men tried to help him, one of them accidentally broke a window, therefore alerting the terrorists. Team 2 was supposed to wait for the explosion, but the course of the events forced them to enter the building before they had planned to. To the misfortune of the entangled team leader, the curtains had caught on fire and began to burn him through the broken window. He suffered some burns, but somehow managed to evade serious injuries. The second abseiling team released him by dropping him to the 2nd floor balcony. With painful burns, the team leader entered the building.
So I remember reading about this, And it's pretty cool because you can actually go online and see the pictures of him, actually suspended there and his leg getting caught on fire. Because I think at that point the curtains were setting on fire and his harness basically got stuck. I forgot the exact cause of it, but yeah, something ended up getting snagged, and the team at the top basically they were trying to cut his rope, but they had to wait because he was sort of swaying around trying to mess with his harness and whatnot. So they had to wait for the right time to actually cut him so he could land on the balcony. Because if he was like moving back a little bit or to the side, he could have missed the balcony completely. And especially if you look at the pictures, you can see there wasn't a whole lot of leeway, so they had to cut it at the right time. And it's still really badass that he got these serious burns, but was able to still actually go in and do his part of the mission, which is, again, the SAS are badass, so you'd pretty much expect that to happen. But it's cool to actually see this happening in a real life situation.
Just as Team 2 went in, they realized that the terrorists had barricaded themselves and hostages in. Explosions and the broken glass alerted the terrorists, who began shooting at the male hostages held in the telex room. Before the SAS came in, the terrorists had shot 3 hostages, of which 1 had died instantly. Sergeant Tommy Palmer was trying to find another way in when he noticed a terrorist trying to set fire to the room. Palmer's gun jammed, but when the terrorist fired his pistol, he missed. The terrorist then ran into the telex room, but was shot dead as he was pulling a grenade out. Another terrorist was shot dead right there in the room, while 1 managed to disguise himself amongst the hostages. In the nearby cipher room, the SAS released female hostages and took them along with the others to the backyard. They threw the male hostages from soldier to soldier to ensure that the remaining terrorists didn't have time to act.
That must have been stressful.
As they were coming down the stairs filled with CS gas, 1 SAS soldier noticed the concealed terrorist, pushed him down the stairs, after which another SAS soldier shot him dead. 3 to 4 magazines were emptied into him to ensure he was dead. It was a big shot since the terrorist was holding a grenade in his hand ready to activate it.
Again, you can imagine how crazy things would get when you actually make entry and all of a sudden all these shots are going off, hostages are getting shots, you're doing your thing. All of a sudden there's a bunch of fire and smoke, and now you're trying to get hostages out, just because at this point you're just trying to make sure the building doesn't collapse on top of you while you're doing everything. And then at the same time you have the terrorists who are actually hiding among the hostages. And you can see they found him, and didn't end too well for him.
As teams 1 and 2 were sweeping the top floors, Team 3 from the blue team assaulted the first floor via the balcony, which they climbed onto from the adjacent building. Lance Corporal McAleese, holding a frame charge, shouted at the hostage Sim Harris to move out of the way. They blew off the window and stormed in after they threw in flashbang grenades. It was more than 2 minutes after the red team entered the building. As they rushed through the first floor rooms, they bumped into Owen, wrestling with Police Constable Locke. Once Locke realized the assault was on, he took his concealed revolver and attacked Owen. Then the door flew open and a voice shouted, "Trevor, get away!" Then Owen was shot dead by one of the SAS soldiers. Another terrorist was spotted by the ambassador's office. He was wounded by 1 SAS soldier and shot dead when he lifted his pistol. Team 4 and Team 5 entered the building from the rear by slamming the ground floor French doors leading to the library. Their task of clearing the ground floor and cellar went smoothly, as they found neither terrorists nor hostages. As the fire began to rage through the building, all hostages were taken through the library to the backyard. There, they were all bound with cable ties, as 1 terrorist was still among them. He was ultimately recognized by Sim Harris and taken away by the SAS soldiers. The clock showed 1940 hours. In just 17 minutes, the SAS managed to kill 5 terrorists, capture 1, and release 19 out of the 20 hostages.
Now, again, that's pretty quick when you think 17 minutes. Some people would think, maybe that's kind of slow. People who aren't in the military would probably think that. But like the fact that they're able to do it pretty simultaneously with all this stuff going wrong, you need to be able to adapt around certain things, of course. But when you're doing a hostage situation, the adapting is much harder to actually do, especially when you're trying to get everything in a certain time frame. And at the same time, when things are on fire and there's a bunch of smoke, it makes it so much harder to comprehend what you're actually looking at and everything. So I'm sure it was pretty crazy for the SAS guys to actually be able to wrap their mind around everything that was going on. But they did it very well. And their planning definitely paid off, because you can see, even with 17 minutes, that's pretty solid for them to go in, get the hostages, kill the terrorists, and get them out of there and do accountability. Now, with planning, you leave a little bit of leeway just for things to go wrong. But for 17 minutes to include all of that and actually get the accountability of the hostages and the terrorists, that's pretty solid. A lot of people wouldn't even consider the whole accountability portion as far as counting everyone. But they did it. They realized it was a terrorist hiding in the hostages. And it was a good thing they actually did that, because it could have gotten very wrong. Especially, we saw the other terrorists had a grenade.
Only one hostage was killed during the assault. He and the previously killed Abbas Lavasani were the only hostage fatalities of the crisis. Once the operation was over and the hostages were secured, firefighters began putting out the fire. Then the control over the crisis was passed back from the Army to the Metropolitan Police. The whole operation was broadcasted live and allowed the public to witness the bravery, professionalism, and high level of readiness by the SAS. By that time, the unit was relatively unknown outside military circles. After the Iranian embassy crisis, all eyes were on them, and the number of new applicants wanting to join the SAS surged dramatically. From that period on, the SAS became known as a superb counter-terrorist unit.
Well, at least it was a good recruiting tool for the SAS at the very least. Again, it didn't end up too well for those terrorists, which is, again, awesome. So with these hostage situations, you've seen a lot of them, go very wrong. And with the planning portion, you do leave a little bit of leeway just to account for everything. But with the SAS, they're very professional. They can definitely handle everything under stress. So it's not a surprise that they're able to adapt to everything that was actually unfolding during the situation. But again, 5 days isn't a whole lot to practice. So along with their professionalism and their leadership and being able to adapt, it took that actual commitment just to make sure that they had some solid training going on and that everyone actually understood what they were doing. Now, I have seen a documentary about Operation Nimrod, and I think this video does a pretty good job of aligning with that, at least. So it seems pretty accurate as far as depicting the SAS, the embassy, the location of the people and everything. So it does do a pretty good job, so kudos to them on that. But yeah, there's a whole lot you can actually read up on Operation Nimrod as far as the planning, other courses of action, the assault itself. The SAS guys talking about it, they sound like very smug talking about it, but it's awesome. It's totally deserved based on how successful the assault actually was. Now, we did have 2 hostages that were killed, but with hostage situations, you can and we have seen these go very, very bad in other situations. So for them to actually do it in 17 minutes with 5 days of planning, I think they did a pretty good job. So their smugness is very well deserved. But yeah, this is a pretty awesome assault, and it's a cool thing to read about as far as history is concerned. But definitely let me know what you guys think. If you're actually alive and were watching this as it was unfolding, definitely let me know how that was. I wasn't born for another maybe 13, 14 years after this, so it's before my time. But again, if you guys were alive and were watching it as it was unfolding, that would be pretty interesting to hear about. So definitely let me know and put that in the comments section. Even if your parents have talked about it, it'd be pretty cool to hear about. But yeah, let me know what you think. Otherwise, put it in the comments section. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. Hopefully, Simple History, the channel itself, doesn't like to claim videos, but I guess we'll see, because I'd love to react to more of their videos. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed, definitely subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified when I upload any more videos. But that is it for this one, so I will see y'all in the next one.